He was called the laziest boy on earth. He dropped out of school, got fired in less than a week. And yet, this same person would go on to build one of the most powerful empires in history, revolutionizing not just cars, but the way the entire world works. But here's the part most people don't know. The story of Henry Ford isn't just about innovation. It's also about control, obsession, and a dark legacy that still sparks controversy today. This is the true story of Henry Ford, the man who created the modern automobile industry, introduced the assembly line, and changed how billions of people live and work. But behind the success were failed companies, dangerous ideas, and decisions that shocked the world. So how did a struggling farm boy build an empire? And why does his legacy remain so divided even today? Henry Ford was born in 1863 on a quiet farm in Michigan, and from the very beginning, something about him felt different. While his family worked in the fields, Henry stayed inside, taking apart tools, clocks, anything he could get his hands on. To others, he looked lazy, but in reality, he was obsessed. Machines fascinated him. How they moved, how they worked, how they could be improved. At just 13 years old, he could dismantle and rebuild a watch faster than most adults. And then one day, everything changed. Henry saw a machine, a steam-powered vehicle moving without horses. In that moment, a single idea took over his mind. What if anyone could own one of these? But life didn't go according to plan. At just 16, Henry left home. He moved to Detroit, chasing opportunity, and within days, he failed. He lost his job. No money, no direction, alone in a new city. For most people, that would have been the end. But Henry didn't quit. He took whatever work he could find, repairing machines, working nights, learning constantly. And slowly, something started to change. He wasn't just fixing machines anymore. He was beginning to understand them, deeply. Then came a breakthrough. Henry discovered something that would change everything. The gasoline engine. Smaller, more powerful, more practical than steam. And suddenly, his dream felt possible again. While working at the Edison Illuminating Company, Henry spent his nights building something new, piece by piece, scrap by scrap, until finally, in 1896, he built his first car, the quadricycle. It wasn't perfect, but it worked, and that's all he needed. You'd think success came next. It didn't. Henry Ford started his first company, and it failed. Then he started another, and that failed too. Investors hated him. Why? Because Henry didn't care about profits. He cared about perfection. He wanted to build a car for everyone. But investors wanted luxury, fast money, quick returns. The conflict was constant, and eventually, he was pushed out of his own company. Twice. At this point, most people would give up. But Henry did something unexpected. He turned to racing. Not for fame, but to prove a point. His lightweight cars started winning, breaking records. And suddenly, everyone was watching. In 1903, Henry Ford tried again. This time, he founded the Ford Motor Company. And this time, everything changed. Because Henry had an idea, a radical one. He didn't want to build expensive cars. He wanted to build affordable cars for the masses. But there was one problem. Cars were too slow to produce, too expensive to build. Until one day, Henry walked into a slaughterhouse, and what he saw shocked him. Workers standing in one place, each performing a single task, while products moved past them. Efficient, fast, scalable. And in that moment, the assembly line was born. Production time dropped from days to just 90 minutes, and soon after, the Model T arrived. Simple, durable, affordable. Within years, millions were on the road. Henry Ford didn't just build a car. He built a system, one that would define modern industry forever. But then, things took a darker turn. Henry did something no one expected. He doubled worker wages, cut working hours, introduced the 5-day work week. At first, it looked like kindness, but it was also strategy. Better paid workers meant more productive factories and more customers. It worked. But success came with control. Henry wanted things his way, always. He rejected new ideas, ignored changing markets, even clashed with his own son, and slowly, the empire began to crack. Competitors caught up, sales dropped, and Henry was forced to adapt, too late. But that wasn't the most shocking part, because behind the scenes, Henry Ford was spreading dangerous beliefs. He funded publications filled with hate, influenced millions, and even inspired one of history's most infamous figures, Adolf Hitler. What started as innovation was now tied to something far more disturbing. In his later years, Henry Ford became more isolated, more rigid, more controversial. His company survived, but the man behind it became a deeply divided figure. After his death in 1947, the world was left with a complicated legacy. On one side, a visionary who transformed industry. On the other, a man whose beliefs caused real harm. Even today, the impact of Henry Ford is everywhere, in factories, in work schedules, in the very way products are made. But so are the questions about power, influence, and responsibility. Henry Ford proved something powerful, that one idea can change the world. But his story also reveals something just as important, that success, without awareness, can come at a cost. Because in the end, the same man who made cars accessible to millions also showed how influence can shape history in ways no one expects. And maybe the real question isn't, what did Henry Ford build? But what kind of world did he leave behind?